Vedic astrology. Today, we are going to talk about the 12th house, a very interesting feature of the 12th house that you may or may not have heard about. But before that, a big thanks to all of you for liking, sharing, subscribing to our YouTube and Spotify channels and putting in your comments and your suggestions there and letting us know how you found the videos. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, then please do, and do remember to press the bell icon so that you can get the updates ASAP. So the 12th house. Generally, when we're talking about the 12th house, what are the associations that we make with the planets in the 12th house? So the associations that we generally make with the planets in the 12th house, beginning from losses. Yes, losses is something that we say because it's a Vaibhav, it can mean losses. And losses also translate to expenditures in life, things that we don't want to give. Here I like to take a moment and say that the 8th house and 12th house though can both show sudden changes, sudden losses, but the 8th house would be more impactful in terms of sudden losses which happen in the blink of an eye. The 12th lord, the 12th house gives you the liberty whether you want to incur those losses as expenditures, bad losses, or those losses that you willingly make, like gifting people things or like going on a vacation, fine dining. So these are the expenditures one does. There's a loss of money, but one is able to enjoy, subject to the planet that is placed in that house. We will also be seeing that the 12th house represents charity. So as I said, those losses could be losses that one could be doing it willingly. You would be wanting to gift certain amount to in charities, and that would also be coming from the 12th house. Foreign travels to offshore locations where the culture is totally different from what you come from. The 12th house is also the house of discharge of debt. Debt can be seen from the 6th house, Rog, Ripu, Rin, where you take in certain amount of money, and when we discharge that debt, we are losing out on some money from our account, and that is seen from the 12th house. Comforts of the bed. All the classics have this point in mind. The 12th house talk about the comforts of the bed. It also talks about imprisonment. There is a very classic shlok which says if your second lord is placed in the 7th house and there is a planet in the 12th house also, there can be a possibility of imprisonment. Or if your 7th lord is also associated with the 12th house, there can be imprisonment for whatever a period of time it may be. The 12th house is capable of giving you international name and fame. How so? The 12th house, as I said, is the foreign territory. It talks about places, locales which are very different from your culture, and subject to the planet is here, it can give you, or as we will see later on, the Karaka, a boost in the foreign land. And it also connects with the supreme, the ultimate. That is the house that connects you to the ultimate. If we take the charts of big names in the world of spirituality, say Maharshi Ramana Yogi, or if we take the chart of Sir Aurobindo, or if we take Ramakrishna Paramhan's chart, Vivekanandaji's chart, we'll find that there is a planet sitting in the 12th house that can give us a lot of name and fame, or for that matter, connect us with the supreme. The 12th house is also, as we said, about expenditures. So it's also luxury goods if you're buying, especially if there's a placement of Venus there, then it connects. The left eye is also seen for the 12th house. And the all these houses have a very strong connect. All these planets that we're going to talk about will have a strong connect. There's a very interesting point in Bhavarth Ratnakar. Bhavarth Ratnakar states that whichever planet is placed in the 12th house, the Karaka of that planet will show a lot of increase. And in fact, the 12th house increases that karaka, blooms that karaka. In respect to the Aries Lagna, say supposing Jupiter is placed there in the 12th house, it's also your ninth lord, signifying your father. So your father would be in a very happy position after your birth, or for that matter, during the Antardasha, Pratyantardasha of Jupiter. Similarly, for any lagna, say if a sun is placed in that house, sun in the 12th house, then sun also talks about your father. Then your father could also be getting name and fame. Sun also talks about, it is the karaka of the lagna also. So the sun also talks about the self. If sun is placed in the 12th house, then know for certain that sun can give you yourself a name and fame, a strong name and fame in the world. You can check it out with the chart of Mahatma Gandhi. Obviously, Deshkal Patra matters because it the kind of work a person puts in also does matter. Things don't come to us for free. We have to put in certain amount of karma. So that matters. But at the end of the day, we will see that this sun is capable of giving us that. Moreover, we have to see the sign. For example, in Mahatma Gandhi's chart, sun is sitting in the sign of Virgo. Virgo is the chart, is a sign that talks about hard work. He worked hard. He rose to prominence due to certain issues. It's also about fighting. He fought about certain issues and he rose to power. When you talk about Mahatma Gandhi. When we talk about moon, moon is your tendencies, your habits. It also talks about your mother. It is the karaka of the 4th house of vehicles. It is the karaka of the 4th house of happiness. And the 12th house is in trine with the 4th house. So here a person is most likely to find happiness when they are able to connect with the supreme, when they're able to express their connection in some manner, in fluidity, because moon also represents your emotions. So if a person is able to emotionally express themselves, they're going to find happiness in that area. So now we move on to Mars in the 12th house. Mars is the karaka of siblings. Mars is the karaka of strength. Mars is the karaka of the 3rd house, and it's also the karaka of the 6th house. When we process the entire things, we can see that the siblings of the person can grow. Mars is also the karaka of your courage and valiance. So your courage and valiance will find its place in and prominence in a number of groups, society, and you, because if Mars is sitting in the 6th house, 12th house, it is also aspecting the 6th house. As a result, you will not be afraid of taking your enemies head on or your competitors head on, and you will be very vocal, can come down to strong fights on that level also. We can now move forward with Mercury. When we talk about Mercury in the 5th house, this Mercury also gives us a lot of name and fame. Mercury is the karaka. It gets Digbali in the Lagna. It is also the karaka of your 10th house. It is also the karaka of the 4th house. Sitting in the 12th house, one can one can also expand an international business like Dhirubhai Ambani. If you look into his chart, Mercury will give you the ability to expand things, do international trade, and earn name and fame there. Since it is the karaka of the 4th house, it also gives you happiness in doing that. It makes your mother feel proud of you doing good work in terms of business also. It could also denote that your mother has a very strong sense of intelligence. When we talk about Jupiter in the 5th house, it talks about a person who, as we said about the Aries Lagna, it is very strong and it gives a very good approach that the Aries Lagna people, obviously, their parents will have a good rise. But Jupiter is also the karaka of your elder sibling. It is also the karaka of your children. So if your Jupiter is sitting in the 12th house, your children can have a lot of prosperity. Jupiter is also the karaka of money. That means that from far off shores, you have the capability of earning money. So if you invest in those areas, it's good to get that money from that place, or your children can have a lot of name and fame. They can travel abroad, they can earn money in those areas of life. But we've also made a video where we have said that Jupiter in the 12th house also makes us aware that you should be very careful about your accounts and taxations, and that can also cause certain taxations. Not that there is no expenditure. Jupiter in the 12th house can give you a love for gold, and you can be making a lot of expenditure in that area. Wherever Jupiter sits, it does create certain amount of problems. So that Jupiter could be taking away your sleep. You could be getting early up in the morning, or it could also make person too work oriented to enjoy, not to be able to enjoy certain aspects of life. So now let us talk about Saturn in the 12th house. When we talk about Saturn in the 12th house, it becomes important to remember that Saturn is the karaka for the 12th house, and simultaneously the 6th and the 8th houses. These houses talk about karmic results. Saturn in these houses is quite capable of giving karmic result. It also talks about service to those people who are old, infirm, or who come from a strata of society below us. So if we are able to deliver service to these people, we get enough in terms of blessings, in terms of their health, to be able to overcome a lot of Saturn's problems. Saturn in the 12th house also talks about donations made which are not very ostentatiously shown towards others. They are donations which are made quietly and made in huge sum towards the really deserving people. When we talk about Venus in the 12th house, Venus in the 12th house is exalted in the natural Kalpurush Kundli, and in the classical text, it's always mentioned that Venus in the 12th house is very good. However, Bhavarth Ratnakar does mention a few situations where Venus in the 12th house is not considered that good. However, Venus, when it is placed in the 12th house, gives us name and fame as a person who likes spending, a person who likes traveling. It gives us a very good indication because it's the karaka of the 7th house. It all and talks about the Dara karaka. So a person has the ability to spend a lot on their spouse, their or on enjoyment, because Venus also talks about enjoyment. One, as Venus is the Daitya Guru, it also talks about education that can be assessed by a person from foreign shores or from cultures which are totally different from yours. When we talk about Rahu in the 12th house, well, Rahu in the 12th house, I would personally say for a person who's looking for material benefits may not be very good. But it, yes, it does bring in its share of name and fame. Rahu in the 12th house can bring immense name and fame, but it also takes one through the rigmarole. If you read Bipin Bihari Ji, he has a very good line stating that Rahu is capable of giving one the connect with the Supreme like no others. Once, if you see Vivekanand Ji's chart or Louis Hayes' chart for that matter, you would see that Rahu is there in the 12th house. The signs differ and therefore the way of expression differ. For Louis Hay, it's the third house of the Kalpurush Kundli, which is Gemini, which talks about communication, which talks about printing, which talks about spreading the word around. As far as Vivekanandji is concerned, the sign for Vivekanandji of Rahu in the 12th house is Scorpio, which goes deep into the Adhyatma part, and which also shows a lot of trouble and turmoil in life. So, having said that, Rahu does bring in trouble and turmoil in life. But if one is able to withstand it and over a period of time learn to live with it, one would definitely find their bearings in the material world also. With so many Indian teachers, so many Indian gurus leaving their mark, Vivekanandji has a special place because he withstood whatever was to be coming their way and got and made a special for a place for himself in the world. So when we come about talk about Ketu, the Moksha in the 12th house or even in the sign of Pisces does a good job because it tells us that a person is capable of getting moksha. Well, moksha is moving towards non-attachment, and it is also capable of delivering others from a period from a place of attachment. Till we meet with you again, stay tuned. Thank you.
Please hit the bell icon for fresh updates. Don't forget to like, share, and comment on the videos, and please subscribe to our channel.